Hi boys and girls, by now you've probably finished all of your math lessons through 10.7. Before you do the chapter checkup, I would like you to take a couple days to work on this review packet that I sent home for you. So we're going to review picture graphs and bar graphs a little bit today. So you can see on the top page that they gave you an example of a picture graph and they used little stick people to represent the people. So that's why it's called a picture graph, because it's using pictures. And the first graph was showing how many kids like apples for snack or pretzels for their snack. And you can see there are 5 little stick figures going across for apples and 3 for pretzels. And then the answers were there are 5 children who chose apples and 3 children who chose pretzels. I've put up on the top of the board here the second picture graph. And this one was about what we ate for lunch. And some kids chose sandwiches and some kids chose soup. And you can see I've drawn the picture graph to match yours going across using little stick figures for the sandwiches and little stick figures for those who chose soup. Now we can answer the questions together. Number 1 says, which lunch did more children choose? Well, we look at which line is longer. And as you can see, we would pick sandwich. The sandwich line was longer. There were more kids that chose sandwich than soup. Number 2, how many children chose sandwich? Now we just need to go to our graph and count that row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children chose to have sandwiches for lunch. And the last question, how many chose soup? We go to the soup row and we count 1, 2. So that was just a review of reading a a picture graph. And now we're going to make a picture graph. On the second page of your review packet, you have a parking lot of some cars. You have some black cars in the parking lot and white cars in the parking lot. And they started by placing a circle to represent the cars. So it is still a picture graph, but we're going to use a circle as our counter. And you can see they already did the first one. They put a circle in the row for black and they crossed out the black one. You can go through and count the black and cross them out as you go. Let's go ahead and count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I need to remember they already wrote 1 for me. I'll keep going until I have 10 on my picture graph for black cars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There were 10 black cars in my parking lot. Now I need to to draw the pictures, the counters, to represent the white. Let's count the white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, you could cross them out as you go just to make sure you represent each one. Now I will put 6 counters in to represent the pictures for the cars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I can answer my questions down here. How many white cars are there? Well, we just put that in. There are 6 white cars. We could count the 6 counters. How many black cars are there? Let's remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The bottom question, are there more black or white cars? Well, our line with black is more than white, so we have more black than white. Let's add a little challenge question onto that. How many more black are there than white? Remember, we could look where they are the same and count the empty boxes to match. Let's do that. So here's where they would be the same. And we would see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 empty down here. So there are 4 more black than white cars, or 4 fewer or less white cars than black. Or we could have shown it as a subtraction problem. We start with a bigger number that we're comparing, which is the 10 for black. We subtract the smaller number, which was 6 for white. We can use our number lines or count on our fingers, count backward from 10. But let's go ahead and do that. 10 minus 6 would equal 4. There are 4 more black than white. Let's clean off our screen before we do one more page. So if you want to turn to the next page, at the top it says Lesson 10.3 Read Teach. We're going to read a bar graph to finish up our day today. So let's clear off our board. Make sure you've turned your page. And we'll just use the top portion of our board for this one. We can leave off our last picture graph. One more little cleaning here before we move on. So now on this page, we have our favorite snack, and they were talking to some children, and they're looking at if the kids like apples for a favorite snack, a pretzel, or yogurt. And the label at the top was our favorite snack. And we have a bar graph that has been made for us to read. We'll divide into our categories and color it to represent. And on this one, there were numbers actually written at the bottom for us to help us with this bar graph. And our numbers are going up to 6. So if we start with apples, we can look and see and go across. And our bar graph looked like this for the apples. The pretzels had this many spaces colored in. And the yogurt went all the way to the end on this bar graph. Of course, I'm doing a quick picture, not taking as much time to color it in, but you can see it clearly on your page. Now we have some questions to answer. Number 1, how many children chose pretzels? Well, we just go across in the pretzel row, and we see there are 2 spaces colored in. So we would have 2 children there. How many children chose apples? We go across in the apple row and look at the number going down there, and there are 4 for apples. Number 3 says circle the snack the most children chose. Well, we look at which line had the most, and that would be yogurt. And then the last question, circle the snack the fewest children chose. And our shortest line was the pretzel line. Again, we could do some comparisons. We could say how many more yogurt are there than pretzels. We could count the extra and see there are 4 more yogurt than pretzels. How many more apples are there than pretzels? We could look at how they compare. And there are 2 more apples than pretzels. We can also do the reverse and say how many fewer pretzels than yogurt, which we would still look at the empty boxes, which would be 4. Or how many fewer pretzels than apples. We could look at the empty box and say there are 2. We could also ask how many altogether. We can make our 3-part addition. So let's start with apples, which would be 4, plus pretzels, which would be 2, plus yogurt, which would be 6, equals. Now, we want to pick 2 numbers to start with first, and we'll make our little arrow. So we'll make this one right here. 4 plus 2 is 6, and then we still have to add our other 6, and that's a double. 6 plus 6 is 12. So there were 12 kids represented on this graph. That's all for our review today. Tomorrow we'll continue working with bar graphs and review our tally charts. Have a good afternoon.